To watch these important lessons, subscribe to DP Education's YouTube channel right now. Click on the bell icon to stay updated on the latest lessons. Sri Lanka's largest free online school, DP Education.
So my dear children, in the earlier chapters we discussed several things regarding the lesson biodiversity. We discussed several things regarding the ecosystem diversity, then about the genetical diversity and about the species diversity in the first session. Then we introduced that the biodiversity means collection of all these diversities together. Then in the second chapter we discuss about the threats to biodiversity and important factors that can be observed, right? Or important things or the benefits of biodiversity. In the third chapter we discussed about several things regarding the relationships or the interactions that we can observe within the biodiversity, right? So within that lesson, from that lesson part, my dear children, we have finished all the things related to the biodiversity lesson part. Okay, so here within this lesson part we'll be mainly focusing about different types of ecosystems that can be observed in Sri Lanka. Okay, especially there are different kinds of sources or else ecosystems. However, we'll be mainly focusing about the resources or the ecosystems that we can observe only within in Sri Lanka. Okay, right. So you are given with the topic then natural ecosystems and man-made ecosystems. So you know that at the beginning of the lesson we even discussed this thing. Ecosystems can be divided or classified mainly into two parts. Number one is natural ecosystems and the second one would be artificial or else man-made ecosystems. So both of these ecosystems can be found in Sri Lanka. Those things are available in Sri Lanka. Okay, so here you are given with a point. Sketch of the ecosystem classification in Sri Lanka is given below. So ecosystems in Sri Lanka, mainly we can divide it into two main categories as natural ecosystems and man-made ecosystems, natural and man-made. Then we can divide these natural ecosystems, my dear children, again into two main categories as natural aquatic environments, natural terrestrial environments. Aquatic environments, the name itself refers it. Aquatic means here we are discussing about watery areas. Okay, natural aquatic. So within these aquatic environments, we'll be discussing about marine water environments, then brackish water environments, and also freshwater environments. So oceans, marine water, lagoons, brackish water, rivers, fresh water. Okay, other than that there are several other examples as well, just to give you a certain idea about what are the types which are related to each of these categories. Okay, so under fresh water we'll be discussing about oceans and all the other stuff like the estuaries. Then under the marine water is the one which we are discussing those things, right? First of all we'll be discussing about fresh water. So under the fresh water we'll be discussing about rivers and inland water reservoirs like tanks, ponds and so on. And under the marine water sources or marine water ecosystems we'll be discussing about estuaries, oceans and so on. Then under the brackish water and aquatic environments we'll be discussing about lagoons. Okay, then my dear children, under the natural terrestrial environments we'll be discussing about forest, tropical rainforest, montane forest, right? Then thorn bushes and shrublands. Like that way we'll be discussing several things related to the forests. Okay, then about the grasslands, different types of grasslands that we can observe in Sri Lanka will be discussed and covered within the grasslands part. So from that we'll be finishing out the natural ecosystems, my dear children. Then our final topic would be man-made ecosystems. So under the man-made ecosystems, as you can see here within the figure, first of all we'll be identifying factors related to the agricultural ecosystems, then industrial ecosystems, then the third one human settlements. So these are the ecosystems that we can observe in Sri Lanka. Okay, So mainly we are discussing about these details regarding these things, and my dear children, their importance and also other features and factors related to each and every ecosystems. Okay, right then. So first of all, let's move on to discuss natural aquatic environments. This is the first and foremost topic, my dear children. Under the aquatic environments, we'll be discussing about natural aquatic environments. Aquatic, so the name itself refers to water. So here we'll be discussing about water areas. So let's see. Natural aquatic environments can be categorized into three groups as freshwater, marine ecosystems, and brackish water environments. So like I said in the earlier lesson part, my dear children, these waters can be categorized into three groups: marine ecosystems, then brackish water ecosystems, then freshwater ecosystems. These aquatic environments or aquatic ecosystems can be classified into three main categories. Freshwater, marine water, and brackish water. So vast number of living organisms live in these environments. So you can observe different types of organisms living in each of these environments. Okay, different types of organisms living in each of these environments. So when you take freshwater bodies like tanks, rivers, there are certain types of fish like tilapia, right, living on those kinds of ecosystems. Then if you take oceans, marine water sources, in there also there are different kinds of fishes like shark, shellfish, and so on, right? And my dear children, in brackish water also there are different kinds of organisms which are living like mangrove plants. So vast number of living organisms live in these environments. Information about some aquatic ecosystems are given below. So these are the main aquatic ecosystems that we are going to discuss within this lesson part, my dear children. Those are rivers, estuaries, lagoons, riverine environments, inland water resources or water reservoirs, then finally oceans. So there are 6 subcategories under the natural aquatic environments. So these things reflects rivers like freshwater sources, estuaries and oceans, marine water resources, then lagoons, brackish water resources, right? Right then, so these are the key main areas that we are going to discuss within the lesson part, my dear children. So let's move on with the next one to observe the first and foremost environment or the ecosystem. This is about rivers then. So they are freshwater aquatic ecosystems. So like I said in the earlier, these rivers are freshwater. Less amount of salinity can be observed, or the minerals and the salts which have been dissolved within the water is very less. That's why it is referred as freshwater bodies. Then here it is given, most rivers start from the catchment areas of the central highlands and flow to the sea. So catchment area means they receive plenty of water from the rain. Okay, so most of the rivers are starting from catchment areas, like they receive plenty of water by rain or any other precipitation method. Okay, most of the time it is rain. So catchment area is an area where they catch this water or precipitations. Okay, especially rain. So when the rain is very high, right, from that kind of a place, a river is going to start. Usually you know that from a mountain range, right, especially from a mountain range, some kind of a certain types of rivers are going to start. That's how we have been studied. Actually, that's the true thing, because most of the rivers which are starting are going to start from a catchment area from central hills like highlands. Okay, next one, The other thing is that other specialty is that starting from a catchment area or from a highlands or else from a hill country, these rivers would start and they will flow towards the sea, right? Then, my dear children, the water level of rivers fluctuate with the rainfall in the regions. So, according to the rainfall, the water level in the rivers is going to fluctuate. That means move up or down. If there is a drought season, less amount of rain, then the water in the river, water level in this river will go down. Okay. However, if plenty of rain is going to receive within a certain time period, then during that time period, my dear children, the water level of the rivers will going to rise up. That's how actually the river water is coming towards us, which is referred as flood. Next one. Some rivers confined to a smaller stream during the dry season. So sometimes some rivers are confined to a small stream during the dry season. Okay, so these things are very easy to understand, my dear children. There are no that much of a big deals in here. Okay, it's very simple things, very simple information regarding to each of these environments. Okay, so then let's see the other one then. Different species of plants and animals are living from the head wall, this is called as the ismatha in Sinhala, up to the estuary. Okay, estuary means the place where the river is going to fall, right? River is going to fall towards the sea, that place. Okay, so different species of plants and animals are living from the head wall, that means ismatha, and up to the estuary. That means, my dear children, when you take the river from the two edges, that environments from those two edges, like these are the ones which are referred as ismatha. Okay, so from those head walls towards the estuary, different kinds of organisms are living on, plants and animals both. Right, so examples given: Mahaveli River. Mahaveli River is the longest river in Sri Lanka. Okay, longest river in Sri Lanka, Mahaveli River. Then Kalani River, right? Kalani River. Once again, another river, right? A very famous river. Even in Colombo area, we can observe the Kalani River, my dear children, right? So that is also a very famous river. So Mahaveli and Kalani, then Walave. So those are some rivers that we can observe in Sri Lanka. Right, so the next one, importance of rivers. So my dear children, the importance, number one given, it fulfills the water needs for agriculture. So when you take the agricultural purposes, for our agricultural purposes, water is very important. Without water, we won't be able to do our agriculture. So, since the ancient time period, my dear children, the people who are living near the riverine environments, they receive water from rivers to do their agricultural activities. Even for today also, we receive mainly water to our agricultural lands from rivers, right? From rivers. So, it fulfills the need of water for our agricultural purposes. Next one given, generating hydropower. So by building up a dam, okay, near hill country area or highland, we can create a simple hydropower station. By blocking water through a dam, we can create a certain type of or small bit of a hydropower plant. So these hydropower plants are plenty available in our hill country. Okay, so these rivers are being blocked from a certain place and allowed to flow through a turbine to generate electricity. Okay, so my dear children, to generate hydropower electricity also, we use rivers. Right, then the next one, my dear children. So here, the third one, for transportation. You know that river is going to cover a certain area within our country. Not within our country, but in like when you take the whole world. In whole world, my dear children, if you take a certain river, right, a river is going to cover up a certain area within a certain country. Okay, if you take the river Amazon, right, Amazon river is going to even flow between several countries. Okay, so it's very longer. It's very long. So when you take the river Nile, the longest river in the whole world, the same thing, going to travel through several countries. So therefore, we can use this water for our transportation. Okay, for our transportation, we can use this water, right? This flow of water. So at the, during the ancient times, my dear children, we have used several rafts for our transportation, right? For from these rafts, we have traveled even from from certain cities, between two or three cities, right? So for our transportation, but nowadays we don't use these things. Most of the times, in the earlier times, we have used. Okay, so it can also be used as a transportation medium. Okay, so these are the benefits of rivers, the importance. So as you can see here, two figures are given. This is the Kalani River, the fourth longest river in Sri Lanka, and the longest river in the country, the river Mahaveli. As you can see, right, in Sri Lanka, we can observe several rivers. Okay, this is the fourth longest river, the Kalani River. Okay, right. So this is about the rivers. Then my dear children, in next one we'll be discussing about estuaries, right? Estuaries. A place where a river falls to the sea is known as an estuary. So when a river is going to fall towards the sea, so that particular place is the one which is referred as an estuary. Okay. Marine water and fresh water are mixed at estuary and water become brackish. Here the water is somewhat brackish, my dear children. Somewhat related to marine, but however we can refer that thing as a brackish environment because the two waters are getting mixed each other. Then various organisms live in brackish water. So within this brackish water, my dear children, various organisms are going to live on, right? These points are very easy. I know that by just looking at it, you can get the idea without any trouble. Next one, the depositing of mud and sand in river water cause triangular islands known as delta. So within these environments, right, we can identify deltas. So what do you mean by a delta? So delta is a area, triangular island that created because of depositing mud and sand in river water. Okay, due to depositing mud and sand in river water, right, what will happen? A triangular area, a triangular land is going to create. So this triangular land is the one which is known as, or triangular islands are the ones which are known as deltas. Okay, delta. Next one. So within the figure, you can observe the estuary, my dear children, right? An estuary like this. So here it is given example, estuary of Mahaveli opens to Kodia Bay and Tamlangam Bay, right? So these are the examples for estuaries then, right? So actually these environments are very simple, my dear children. There are no any that much heavy details on these things. Just by reading out, you can get the idea quite easily. Okay, right. So these are all about with the estuaries then. Then, my dear children, the importance of estuaries. Importance of estuaries. It prevents the mixing of marine water and fresh water. So as there are estuaries like this, my dear children, you can see very clearly, this is the freshwater river and this is the ocean. So it prevents, estuaries are preventing the mixing of fresh water with marine water. Okay, so it prevents the mixing of those two waters. Then the next one, abundance of fish species with economic importance. So within these areas, my dear children, we will be able to observe different kinds of organisms that has different economic value, economic importance, right? So there are different organisms living on these environments that has different economic benefits. Then next one, rich in biodiversity. So like I said in the earlier example also, as there are different types of organisms, these areas are very rich in biodiversity. Okay, right then. So this is the importance of estuaries. Okay, importance of estuaries. Next one. The next one is lagoon. A lagoon is a shallow body of brackish water permanently separated from the sea by barriers of sand or reefs, but connected with the sea at one time during the year. Right. So lagoon is a shallow body of brackish water. So here you can observe brackish water, my dear children. A shallow body of brackish water. Okay. The other thing is that it is permanently separated from the sea by barriers of sand or reef, but connected with the sea only one time during the year. Just for a one time during the year, lagoon water is going to connect with the marine water, in simple ocean water. Okay, so upon connecting, my dear children, what will happen, right? The brackish water and sea water connects each other. Okay, these two connects each other. So a lagoon is, right, that's actually how the lagoon is going to receive water. Otherwise there won't be any water throughout, otherwise there won't be any water source to like in order to fill this thing, no, right? So there should be a source of water in order to fill out this land. So sea is the one which is providing that benefit. Sometimes from the rainwater also it receives water, but however for a one certain time throughout the year, the lagoon is going to receive water from the sea as it is going to connect with the sea. Okay, right. Then the next one, actually now here the connection means because of the up and downs, actually because of moving the sea, because of moving the lagoon water somewhat up, right, it will go beyond the sand levels and the other barriers, and it will then connect with the sea, my dear children. Okay, otherwise artificially, that means man or humans are not going to interconnect these two for within 1 year. Okay, right, like with once in a year, humans are not going to interfere with these things. Okay, remember that naturally it is happening throughout an year. Only one time naturally these lagoons are going to connect with water, sea water. Okay, next one. So importance of lagoons, used for fishing purposes because prawns, crabs, oysters are available in these places. So if you take the lagoons, plenty of prawns, crabs and oysters, these kinds of organisms can be observed, right, within lagoons, my dear children. Especially now these lagoons are being used, nowadays these lagoons are being used as farms. Okay, farms means actually people are farming prawns and crabs within these lagoons. Okay, nowadays. So within these environments, actually these environments, because of having these mangrove environments, right, that is the main reason for having these kinds of organisms, especially prawns and crabs. They would love to cling on to these roots and other plant stuffs which is which can be observed near the areas of the lagoons. Okay, that's why these prawns and crabs are available in these environments. Right, then the next one, the mangrove plants common on lagoons prevent sea erosion. So to avoid the sea erosion, the mangrove plants are very helpful, right? So mangrove environment can be observed within the lagoons, right? Then the next one, a place of tourist attraction. So due to having these organisms and these plants and all the other things, these places are tourist attractive, right? Attractive for tourists. So tourists would love to come and travel here and there in the lagoons by like to see the wonder of these things. Okay, to observe the mangrove plants, to observe the different kinds of organisms living in these lagoons. So these are the importance of lagoons, my dear children, right? Most of the times we can observe like these organisms like crabs and prawns and oysters within these lagoons, right? Okay, then the next main type of aquatic environment is, my dear children, the riverine environment. Okay, the environment on either sides of the river, from starting point of the river to the point where it flows to the sea, is known as the riverine environment. So at the either side of the river, you can observe the riverine environment. Okay, riverine environment. Then floodplains, sandy lands, marshy lands belong to these environments. So floodplains, sand plains, marshy lands can be observed within the riverine environments, my dear children, right? So these things are available within riverine environments. Okay, so riverine environments means, in simple, those are the areas which are somewhat near to land areas, which are somewhat near to a river. Okay, then the next one, Villu is a wetland in riverine environment. Now Villu is a wetland in riverine environment. A special wetland that can be observed in riverine environment is Villu. Okay, next one, due to overflow of river during the rainy season, floodplains are created. So due to overflow of river during the rainy season, these floodplains are created. So these are the facts regarding the riverine environments. Okay, so examples given, Mahavali floodplain at east. Okay, so these are the riverine environments, my dear children. These are riverine environments. These are the areas, land areas, which can be observed at the either sides of a river. Right, then my dear children, we'll be discussing about importance of riverine environment. So here you are given with a point first, used for inland fishing industry. Now for fishing industry, we use these riverine environments. As you can see, like in here, you can observe these ones who are doing fishing, and in here, see these boats who are doing fishing, right? So in fishing industry, riverine environment is used. The soil is very fertile in floodplains as silt floating along the river is deposited in these areas. So this is the soil is used for agriculture as well as for tile and brick industry. So these riverine environments are very rich from like fertilizer. It's mainly because the silt which is floating here and there within the river water is going to deposit on those lands. So these lands are very fertile, my dear children. So for agricultural purposes, we use these things, these lands, and not only for the agriculture, but due to deposition of silt, right? And also due to deposition of mud particles. These areas are somewhat muddy, So we can use these clay particles to make bricks, and also this clay is used for tile industry as well. Right then. So as you can see here, these are the figures regarding the riverine environments, my dear children, right? Here you can observe very clearly those floodplains and the riverine environments. Right then, the next one. Number 5 is the inland water reservoirs. Inland water reservoirs. So here the name itself refers to it. It gives the idea of it. Inland, that means in a particular land. Water reservoirs, right? Water sources. So inland means these things are not connected to any other place, like to a river or any other. So small ponds, tanks, right? Those things can be considered as inland water reservoirs, right? So here it is given, naturally formed lakes and ponds belong to inland water reservoirs. Okay, naturally formed lakes and ponds belong to inland water reservoirs. Man-made tanks are also considered inland water reservoirs. So now in Sri Lanka, there are several man-made, especially ancient kings, ancient rulers who were ruling the Sri Lanka. They built several tanks all around Sri Lanka. So those tanks, or waver, in Sinhala we refer these things as waver. So these waver areas are also considered as those things are made by ancient people, or else by people those things were made. So therefore those things can also be considered as, my dear children, these inland water reservoirs. Okay, those things can also be considered, right? So ponds, lakes, tanks, waver, all of these things which can be observed within the land are considered as inland water reservoirs. Next one. They can be seen in both wet zone and dry zone and are freshwater environments. So we can observe these things within wetlands and also in drylands. The other thing is that these environments, or these ecosystems are freshwater ecosystems, my dear children, right? As these things are observed within the land, these things are freshwater environments, right? Freshwater. Plants such as lotus, lily, kekatia, and animals such as fish, frogs, snakes, otters, and aquatic birds can be seen in this environment. So as you can see here, there is a vast difference. Between the organisms, or there is a huge, very rich biodiversity among these environments, right? So different kinds of organisms, different kinds of species can be observed within these inland water reservoirs, my dear children. So examples are given. See, lotus, lily, then kekatia, then animals such as frogs, fish, snakes, otters, and aquatic birds also, like ducks, right, and swans can be observed here. Example given, Parakrama Samudraya and Kala Weber, right? Then Tisa Weber, right? Then like that way there are several Weber and tanks, okay? Right then, my dear children. So this is all about with the inland water reservoirs, right? So this is the 5th part, or the 5th main type of natural aquatic environments. Then the next one. So what are the importance of these inland water reservoirs? It provides water for agriculture. So my dear children, ancient times, the kings who ruled Sri Lanka, or the rulers who ruled Sri Lanka, they created these tanks, wevers, in order to create or in order to get water during the dry season for their agricultural purposes especially, right? So for the agricultural purposes, these tanks and rivers are plenty being used, especially in the dry season, right? Especially in the dry season. Then the next one, used for inland fishery industry. So there are several types of fishes, right? Like the tilapia. Okay, then there are other kinds of different kinds of fishes. So these freshwater fishes are being catched, right, by the people, and even we can consume these things. Okay, actually freshwater fish are very tasty, right? I think you have tried these things. So freshwater fish is also a good source of proteins. These inland water reserves are being used for fishery industry as well. Okay, and nowadays, my dear children, like farmers, okay, farmers especially, these farmers, they're going to grow prawns, right? Prawns within these inland water reservoirs. Okay, so the specialty here is that these prawns are freshwater prawns. Okay, freshwater prawns, like very large prawns, and even these prawns are being exported to different countries. Okay, these are like lobsters. Okay, very large ones, very large prawns, freshwater prawns, right? So the figures then shows inland water reservoirs, my dear children, several tanks and other water sources. Right, then the final or the sixth one, my dear children, here we are discussing about the oceans. So you know that oceans are the ones which has marine water that has plenty of salt, right? That has plenty of salt. So therefore this water is having a very high salinity. That is why this is also called as marine water, my dear children. So within these waters, right, within these waters, actually if you take our earth, large amount of our planet earth is being covered by these marine waters. That is why these things are referred as oceans. Okay, oceans. So here it is given, marine areas that covers most of the earth's surface is known as ocean. So ocean is the areas that covers the most of the earth's surface. These are marine areas. Marine means it contains plenty of salts. Next one, large living communities such as algae, polyps, oysters, fish live in the oceans. So you know that there are different kinds of organisms, right? Especially these organisms, sometimes especially these organisms can only be found in these environments. Okay, like octopus, seahorse, those organisms are only available in marine environments, oceans. Okay, and not only that, my dear children, we can also observe different kinds of polyps, like the coral polyp, then algae, those are the main producers in ocean environments, then oysters, different kinds of oysters, and my dear children, different varieties of fish, right? Different varieties of fish. Even we use these fishes as a complementary protein source, right? So you can observe two different figures regarding the oceans, my dear children, ocean areas. Okay, right? So these are the key facts that can be observed within an ocean. Then the importance. Okay, what are the importance? So number one given, rich biodiversity. As you can see, this image is very colorful, and my dear children, while looking at it, you can see that this image is very nice and a wonderful figure. So it contains large amount of fishes wandering here and there within a certain marine environment. So my dear children, So these areas would attract plenty of tourists. As you can see here, my dear children, by looking at these figures, even you would love to visit these places, right? So the other specialty here is that when you take these kinds of environments, like like when there are plenty of coral reefs, we can observe so much beautiful, I mean like very beautiful organisms like fish, different kinds of fish with varieties of colors, which are living on these particular areas. So these areas are very beautiful. Okay, we would love to visit these places, not only us but also for tourists the same interest would come. So these oceans are very much or pretty much tourist attractive. So let's see what are the other benefits there. Ocean water is used to produce salt, and then the next thing is we produce salt, right, by using seawater. We produce salt by using seawater. So by the crystallization of seawater through the evaporation of water, we can create seawater. We can create salt, my dear children. Okay, so how does the process, or how like what kind of a process is being carried out by the production of production of salt by using seawater will be discussed in your further grades in detail. Okay, so I think you have heard about the salterns. So within salterns, we take the seawater in and we vaporize the water in order to deposit or in order to crystallize salt. Okay, so this is how simply we produce salt by using seawater. Then the next one, for fishing industry. So like I said, my dear children, as well as there is beauty, we also use these kinds of fishes, some kinds of fishes, for our protein complement, as our protein supplements. Okay, so most of the times the fish that we are consuming are marine water fishes. Okay, freshwater fishes are also being consumed, but however, most of the times, most of the people would like to eat or would like to consume seawater fish or marine water fish, right? So even in markets also, plenty we can observe these things are plenty available, right? When compared to freshwater fish, right, marine water fish are plenty available in the markets also. Then the next one, generate electricity by ocean waves. So in developed countries, my dear children, these ocean waves are used to generate electricity. Not in Sri Lanka, but however, in developed countries, they use buoys. Then by using these buoys, they generate electricity. Special kinds of machines that would create the kinetic energy possessed by the sea waves, right? And this kinetic energy is being converted into electricity through turbines. Okay, so electricity can also be generated by using the sea waves. Okay, so ocean helps to produce energy as well. Next one, a place of tourist attraction. So we discussed that thing in the earlier at the first and foremost importance, my dear children. So these are the importance of oceans then, right? So with that part, my dear children, we have discussed all the things related to the natural, right? Natural environments. Here especially we discussed about natural aquatic environments. Natural aquatic environments. Right, my dear children. So that's all about with the natural aquatic environments. So, however, my dear children, there is another one, right? There is another one which is called as wetlands. So this is also can be considered as a certain type of an aquatic environments. So here it is mentioned under the aquatic environments. Okay, so now let's see what are these wetlands then. The next one. So wetlands, marshy lands that are covered with water during long period of time in the year are known as wetlands. Actually here water is there, right? But not up to a certain that much level of like water, like in a river or else in a tank or else in a waiver or any other, right? Water is there, but the amount of water is somewhat lesser than that of those other sources. Okay, so these wetlands also play a very main significant role of biodiversity, right? Wetlands, like we can even take these things as paddy fields. It's like some kind of paddy fields, marshy lands. Okay, so once more, marshy lands that are covered with water during a long period of time in the year are known as wetlands. There are freshwater wetlands, marine wetlands, and man-made wetlands. So wetlands are available in all three forms: freshwater, marine water, and as well as man-made ones. Okay. Next one given, importance of wetlands. So wetlands are important to control flood. So my dear children, to control the floods, I mean, like when a flood season would come, all the water will travel towards the lowlands. Okay, you know that lowlands are the ones which are getting underwater because of the floods. So these marshy lands are getting created, these wetlands are getting created because of the floods. Okay, throughout the year when they receive plenty of water, these areas are getting covered with water, creating marshy lands. Okay, right. So it helps to control floods because all the water, overflown water, will travel towards the lowlands, like in wetlands in here. Next one, maintain the stability of reservoirs. It helps to maintain the stability of reservoirs. Next one, minimize climatic changes. It helps to minimize climatic changes. Then make groundwater nutritious and maintain the biodiversity, right? It helps to maintain the groundwater nutritious, and also it maintains the biodiversity as well. Okay. Then my dear children, the other important fact is that used for different industries and tourism industry also, right? So these are the importance of wetlands. So my dear children, we have discussed now all the things related to the natural aquatic environments. Okay, these wetlands are also can be considered as somewhat related to aquatic environments. So these are also aquatic and some can be considered as aquatic environments. There is no problem in it. So my dear children, we discussed about lagoons, estuaries, rivers, then oceans, inland water reservoirs, then my dear children about here wetlands. Okay, so these are the ones that we have discussed mainly, right? So I hope that you got a good idea about these places and examples related to these things. Okay, right. So these are the natural aquatic environments that can be observed in Sri Lanka, my dear children. So by looking at these places, by looking at these ecosystems, I think you have got an idea that these ecosystems are very important, right? As a good citizen, it's your responsibility to protect these places. If you go for field trips or visits or any other trips, it's very important to protect these things. We should have to avoid the environment pollution. So most of the times the people who are visiting these places, they would destroy these things by putting garbage here and there, and so many other stuff also, by doing so many other stuff also, right? So however, it's not good to do that kinds of things. We should be able to protect these things so that the future students or any other people who are coming to visit in the near future, they should also have the ability to see these things. So it's our responsibility to guard and protect these resources. Okay, right then. So these are the main natural aquatic environments. So you are given with an activity here, an assignment. Arrange a field trip to visit natural water resource in Sri Lanka. So You have been asked to arrange a field trip to visit a natural water resource in Sri Lanka. Study the biodiversity in the particular environment. Make a booklet about the living species you observed and their special features. So, you have to organize a field trip to visit natural water resource in Sri Lanka, natural one, like a river, right? Okay, then a river or else a tank, like then and so on. Okay, so you have to plan a special kind of a trip with your schoolmates also, with your schoolmates or with your parents. Okay, however, try to visit a place, or else just imagine a place which you have already visited. Okay, then what do you have to do? Then, my dear children, study the biodiversity in the particular environment. Then we have to study about the biodiversity in that environment. That means we have to study about the number of plants. Then we have to get the species of plants which are living in that particular area. Then not about the plants but also animals, different kinds of animals, different types of fishes and all the other things, right? All the other organisms who are living in that environment. We have to get some certain information. We have to collect some information about those places, those organisms then. Okay, then my dear children, what you have to do? Make a booklet about the living species you observed and their special features. Then what you have to do, my dear children? You have to prepare a small bit of a booklet, right, in order to get these special features, right? So I hope that you would follow up this thing, right? And you would do this assignment at your home to identify different features and different species of organisms that are going to live within a freshwater environment in Sri Lanka. Right then, so with that one, my dear children, I'm going to finish up this chapter. So within this chapter, we discussed mainly about the water resources, aquatic water resources. So we named these things as natural aquatic ecosystems. Especially, we focused about the natural aquatic ecosystems that can be observed within Sri Lanka. Okay, we discussed about oceans, inland water reservoirs, riverine environments and rivers, estuaries, lagoons, and my dear children, wetlands. Okay, so I hope that you got a good idea about the lesson part. Then in our next chapter, we'll discuss about the terrestrial environments that can be observed in Sri Lanka.
To watch these important lessons, subscribe to DP Education's YouTube channel right now. Click on the bell icon to stay updated on the latest lessons. Sri Lanka's largest free online school, DP Education.